All right, good evening, everybody. We'll get the meeting started. It's 5:30. Just a reminder, this is audio and visual recorded for review later. My name is Lincoln Tebow. I'm the fire chief for the town of West Bridgewater. I'm chairing the meeting. Gary's not able to attend. He's in Mississippi. So we will move to the second, vote to approve the prior minutes from July 8th and July 22nd. July 22nd, there was no quorum, so it's just, you should have all received a sheet on July 24th of just the notes from that meeting, so I'll take a motion in a second.
Motion to accept.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. OPM designer update?
All right, thanks. I think we're going to kick it off with a financial update. So the feasibility study is tracking at 66% complete, right on schedule there. We do have a couple of invoices shown in the docket tonight. We have HMFH invoice for $58,666, and then we have a PMA invoice number 14 for $16,083. Kathy, you should have those, and let me know if you have any questions about those at all.
We actually do, and I think the HMFA one came today or yesterday.
Yep, that's an additional one not listed on here at this time, but yeah, we did send another one over recently.
Yep, they're fine, we're all set.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, Kathy, since you have them, I'll entertain a motion in a second for those two invoices.
A motion to accept the invoices as presented.
Second.
Because, just question, is the second one you just talked about, that you just got, is that in the 58,000 or is that?
Nope, that's not shown on this docket tonight because it was just sent prior to this meeting. So we're just voting on a previous one for 58,000 and then previous PMA one for 16,000.
That's
Right.
not, the motion didn't include the other one you just got.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
That's what I'm questioning. 'cause the
It
way
didn't, yeah,
okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the two invoices as shown in the presentation for payment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Designer update.
Okay, I'll hand it over to James and team.
Well, and Melissa.
So today we're going to look somewhat at kind of like the materials that we're planning to put into the cost estimating set. So kind of an overall of what the interior will be accounting for, what the exterior materials will be accounting for, and then there's a little bit of site progress that James will present as well as the security design recap. So these are all future meetings, we're not talk about that. So plan-wise, I think there's been a lot of nuanced updates to the plan, sort of like getting the stage centered on the cafeteria in the upper zone. This is an opening between the two, so the two entries, the one from the rear and the one from the front of the building, are sort of connected through so that this can serve as a, temporary main entrance during phase one of construction, and then also be a way for parent drop-off over here and student drop-off and bus over here, and you'll see that a little bit more in the site update. There's also been a little more development, and there's bigger slides of these areas of how the extended learning commons are going to be flushed out, and these were all meetings we've had with Mark and his educational teams and getting all their input and trying to compile all of that together into a building plan that will work. I think otherwise, more or less, this is very, we're just kind of refining at this point. The same is true on the second floor. We've got, now the multi-purpose right next to the gym, so there's some good overlap there, maybe, possible opening of the wall if that was a benefit to the two programs. Again, the extended learning commons are getting laid out in more detail. There's some additional program here, and the opening into the lower cap and the upper cap are being laid out. And then on the top floor, I think this is very similar, just again more refinement in the learning commons, and then more or less the same layout. So speaking of those learning commons, there was a meeting with the educational group talking about how these are starting to come together. So this is the lower school, but all of them will sort of be similar in their arrangement. So you've got your 6 classrooms per grade, with each of them having their own small group rooms, here and here and here. And then on one side of the hallway, using the small group rooms, kind of pushing them a bit out, allowing the door from the hallway to be off of this side, and then creating a zone in the middle that can be like loose tables and chairs, where there'll be like a teaching wall and a gathering space for a group of kids to meet. And then the idea that there would be sort of a sink in one zone or the other. It could be, these could flip or flop, but the idea that this could be a sink and the teacher could be presenting on maybe the smaller side, and the gathering of students could be here for project area learning that needs sort of sink or access to one. And then at the moment, this is sort of indicated as potentially a soft seating area, so there could be some, little movable couches or flexible kind of things that kids could rearrange or whatever, and have a zone where they could, come out and be comfortable, maybe read a book or something if that was, something that there was time to do. And you can also see on the lower wing in particular, the knuckle between the two grades is starting to form up as the satellite library zone, so that, it takes advantage of the window wall here and allows the books to be here, some additional maybe soft seating near where the books are. And then in the case of the kindergarten, they do have a small group room, and this is currently laid out more as like framed by the books and open and part of this zone, so it can kind of serve both functions. So it can be used, as a meeting zone, but it can also kind of be where the satellite library, you could sit at a table and read instead of kind of a squishy chair. And then on the floor up, you can see that we're able to create, by the pushing out of these small group rooms, it also allows us to create a space where there could be an opening in the floor below. This could be framed in glass, and then you would be able to bring daylight into this floor and then down to the floor below. So we want to make sure that even though, the window wall here is great for bringing in daylight, but it's only going to get so far into any space. So we want to have opportunities to bring additional daylight down through the middle. And it also kind of works to create these three zones, which you can visually see through. We have a view of this as well, where you're standing about here. And you can see through these zones and sort of supervise them easily, but it kind of gives you three different areas to gather the kids in. And then you can see on the second floor, the satellite library doesn't need the entire space for the sizing of it, and it kind of will have a glass wall here and can be ringed in books and sort of a zone between the second and third grade in this case.
What does PO stand for?
Pull out. So
What
that
does that mean?
that is a pull-out space dedicated to the special education program. There's two pull-out rooms tied to each of the resource rooms on the lower school, and then I believe there's one pull-out tied to the resource room in the upper schools. So they're really just another small group meeting room. It's like where kids who need to be pulled out of their classroom for some kind of special extra learning they can use that room. So it's just a more flexible space for smaller groups to meet. Very similar to these small group rooms, but these are sort of tied to the classroom more so, and the pullouts here are sort of tied more to the resource room and sort of special education overall. So that's the layout. I'll just go to the view so you can see that too, because I think that's informative. So this is a view, this is rotated now, but if this was pointed down, you're standing sort of, between the first small group room popped out and the special education room, and seeing the rest of the learning commons and sort of the view out beyond. So you can see the window wall beyond, and that would be the soft seating area in this scheme, and then sort of the teaching wall with the gathering area here, and the idea that maybe there's some different ceiling treatments happening between these zones to sort of define them and create a space within the larger corridor space, and sort of define the circulation zone that's purely the travel area, whereas this is sort of the zone where you could pull off and gather in the space. I don't know if anybody has any questions at all on this. It's pretty straightforward.
So behind the project area, it looks like there's windows into the classroom and
Here-
a door next to it?
Yeah, so the school educators all toured a school, I don't know where it was,
Pine Hill.
Pine Hill, and it had these large 8-foot glass door openings that were sliders, and they kind of pocketed into the wall. So at the moment we're accounting for that in each of them, you can see it's these zones here. So every classroom, including the special education, on these areas has this large window area, and it's a pocket door that could tuck into this wall. I mean, obviously, this wall will get thicker and it'll work, we're pretty early. And that will allow them to open this up and really make this classroom space part of their space and allow supervision of this zone more easily.
Are we worried about sound for that, like zone 2 there? Because so if there's a pocket door with glass, kids are gonna go like this. What are they doing? All right, what are they doing out there?
Well, I think the idea is if you're using this, potentially it would be open.
Okay, so like all one thing?
Maybe.
Okay.
And then
Then what about the kids across the hall?
Yeah, even if it's not, I do believe we can get something that's acoustically rated.
Yeah.
That would be equivalent to the wall that is, next to it,
sound
which is
dampening
obviously
or something?
better.
Yeah.
And could provide the acoustics that we would need. Obviously, there's requirements for the corridor versus the classroom. So any glazing unit that we would have and this, or door, has to meet that. So we
Okay.
would have to design to that.
I'm assuming a large amounts of classes because of aesthetic purposes, but two questions. One is, I'm assuming that that's gonna be a lot more maintenance for cleaning. So is there an additional cost for long-term O&M? And two, there was a concern raised earlier in reference to the staircases, that there was so much glass, that there was a concern about safety, especially in active.
Sure.
So are we moving glass from one area to another area, and still wouldn't that concern then carry over?
We would be treating those with shades or some sort of way of closing. They'd have a lockdown system that they'd be able to be secured in the event of an emergency, and there'd also be some sort of shade or blinds that would come down and conceal it. So it would be, for the purposes of an active shooter situation, it would be solid visually. We could have an opaque shade or something like that that would come
It
down.
just seems to me that it's fantastic, but instead of just doing traditional wood doors, you've got the cost of the glass, the cost of having additional shading, the cost of cleaning it and maintaining it over time. It's serving the same purpose as a traditional material.
We
So-
do have an additional wood door that's standard, because you wouldn't want to be using this slider all the time. It's really more for, we're gonna go out into the project area now, we can open this up, we can open it up, or like, if there's a special day where maybe the grade is gathering and doing something or working together, you would have that opportunity. I don't think those doors are open all day, every day. It would be more like at a time and a place that makes sense. But I do think having vision into the classrooms is also a safety measure, because you want to be able to see in during an active shooter. Obviously, you want to be able to close that. But generally, I think seeing into the classrooms is probably more beneficial than not.
Melissa, I think just from a cost standpoint, we'll see when we get the estimates back, what they're looking at for those each individual doors in all those classrooms. We get a better understanding, have a better answer for you on that, because I know there was a cost question in there too, right, David?
I mean, that's certainly part of it. There's the initial upfront cost, and it sounds great that they're all open so you can see in, but then we're not gonna remove doors to every single classroom in the high school at this point. So there's gotta be, there's a purpose why the doors are there. And it looks like we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist by having glass doors that can slide back and forth. And then above and beyond that, there's a potential cost. So again, I'm not working there. I'm just throwing these ideas out. Maybe they're good, maybe they're bad. It's just that's what strikes me as you're going through it.
And I think what we're trying to do is open up the learning space. We're giving up some classroom space to the extended learning commons, so teachers will be using that space as an extended space for small groups or maybe larger groups. And when we toured different buildings, when we saw this, we saw that although it can be an active space, it can also, shut the doors and become a quiet space. So it becomes more flexible space that they can use.
Yeah, it makes that hallway space that we're designing more usable, I think, rather than less, because of the openness.
From a visual openness point of view, it's likely that if those were not sliding doors or some kind of larger opening, we would be designing them as glass. From a sort of safety point of view, the current thinking is really that transparency is good. Transparency that you can control and close down is a benefit for the safety of the children inside the classrooms. You don't want spaces that can't be supervised from multiple positions.
And at the moment, just because we don't know what the system was, this is just a different glass system, which is actually made out of 3 leaves that open and fold, kind of like you've maybe seen at a restaurant when they open up the restaurant wall. It's very similar to that system, that's what's in the model, not necessarily what we'll do. We're gonna look at that pocket door situation. I think that's more economical than the folding front, you know, of a restaurant situation. I think that's a more pricey system. But we're gonna look at the most economical version of that idea to achieve the goals of the educators, as well as, you know, not cost the project a lot of money, because obviously that will be low-hanging fruit that gets cut. So we don't want to create that. You know, we want to achieve the goal and make it economical. So this is that view of that space, and then there are some other additional interior views that we drew, I don't know, for lack of a better word. So this is sort of that satellite library zone between the 2 classrooms on the 2nd floor in the lower school. So you can see, you know, again, the idea that there could be a color here that like ties, like to let you know that that zone's like a pull-off zone, and there could be bookshelves, some are higher on the wall, some could be lower, and then the view down below to the satellite library below could be through this glass wall. And this is sort of looking back to the main spine where the gym and all of those other shared spaces are on this floor. And, you know, the soft seating here in front of you, the gathering zone, and then way beyond the white zone, which you cannot see in this.
Can you explain just how that glass box is supposed to work again?
Which glass box?
The one that 3 is on, I know that's not what 3 is.
At the moment, this was the idea of like a glass railing. It's a light well, so because it's a 2-story connection, it does not need to be full height. It can be, and we could do it, but it's really the idea that you'd be able to have a visual connection between the 2 floors, and also a way to bring the skylight, daylight that's coming in up here down to the floor below. So we want to, you know, if we're putting in skylights, you don't want to only benefit one floor. You want to try to get that light penetrated as deep into the building as you can. So this, at the moment, was shown as a railing height. It can be up to the ceiling height. It could have some solid at the bottom or not. You know, we're being very like, railings are glass, and I was just doing that everywhere. Obviously, that's also very expensive, so we're not going to do that.
But it's basically under a skylight, correct?
Under a skylight.
Not just general light to go down.
Correct. It would be under a skylight that would then bring that daylight further down into the building. That's the only place we're showing them in each of the 3-story wing and in the 2-story wing. In the 3-story wing, the top floor will for sure need to be enclosed for fire purposes, but the 2nd to 1st could be open, but there is sort of acoustic trade-offs on that, because if there's a group meeting on the 1st floor and they're loud, and the 2nd floor is trying to have a quieter meeting in the hallway, that, you know, there's that kind of trade-off.
I think we also need to consider that, like, this is very early in the design, so showing the glass is allowing us to see what's beyond. It's not necessarily like we're proposing glass everywhere.
I did have it all the way up, and then like seeing through the glass, like through.
Yeah,
and
so
through. It
it's
was like,
much
oh, it
easier
looks
to
lousy.
see the
So I was like, make it a
views
railing
and,
height for now. Ultimately, when it's really there, you know, it's not rendered, like, it's easier to see through. It's just a little bit of, when we're hand sketching and coloring, it, you know, it gets muddy, and then what's in the background, you're like, I can't see anything. So the point is that visually, there's a strong connection each which way in these wings, and, you know, allowing, you know, the teachers to be able to supervise this area that is out in the hallway and not, you know, in a classroom that's more easily supervised. So this is sort of indicating that that is all available in this shared space between all the classrooms. And then there's a couple of views in the sort of, you know, central zone in the spine. So this is a view on the 2nd floor. Again, these are just glass railings. You know, ultimately we will figure out where the glass is most impactful and worth spending the premium on that, and some of it will probably be solid railings or something. But you can see this is sort of the door to the multi-purpose, the library, and community room. I think this one's a community room, and this is the library entrance, and then beyond in this wing, this is on the upper floor, so there's a possibility of skylights into this space. And again, these openings will bring that skylight light down into the 1st floor of that spine area, and then maybe we'll have some elements of clerestory light as well coming into this space to make sure that this is very bright, and then the brightness can filter down. These are openings here in the floor with the railings, so the skylights that are above will bring the light down to the first floor as well. Trying to do everything we can to make it a really nicely daylit space, even when you're not able to see a window. And then the last view is, we showed a similar one to this before, so this is, you come in the front door and you're headed down the hallway towards the kindergarten and lower school wing, between the admin and the lower cafeteria. So you can see, up the wall beyond, and you can see this open stair at the end, and the doors out through this way here. And sort of maybe this wall is, accented or colorful and draws you to it and is exciting, sort of that idea. And again, you can see those skylights above, so through that, those bridge openings on the second floor are bringing that daylight down and through and making this a very nice interconnected space, similar to something that you have in this school. The bigger, when you come in, there's all this space and height. Just trying to create that in this school as well. And I think that's all of our interior views, but then I did have a little more on interiors, just talking about materiality and what we're planning to put into our cost estimating set as a baseline, and then we can obviously, if we're over budget, we would readdress and think about different materials. The thought right now is that we would consider an epoxy terrazzo for the main spine and the two cafeterias, as and then kind of extend it where it kind of naturally ends. And there's security doors here and here for the wings, so that would be a natural stopping point. And then similarly, we would do that through the bridge zone on the second floor, and the stair that connects the two floors could also have epoxy risers put in it.
Is that just for longevity of the product? Okay.
Yeah, terrazzo is like, if you've been in old buildings, terrazzo lasts forever. But actual old terrazzo with concrete and everything is like way too complicated. So now they do the epoxy version. It lasts a very long time. It'll be there, forever.
Yeah.
It'll look beautiful, and it gives you a lot of design opportunity too. We could, put the seal of the town in. We could definitely put paw prints or wildcat stuff around. So it gives you a lot of design creativity and flexibility, but it's also just going to last forever, easy to clean, all of that stuff. And those are, the cafeterias and the main hallways in and out. Those are heavy trafficked areas, so having something that's going to be easy to maintain is important. The rest of the wings mostly are, we're thinking linoleum, because epoxy is wonderful, but it's got a premium of cost, so you can't put it everywhere. So linoleum, in the hallways, in the learning commons, and then also in the classrooms. Again, linoleum gives you a lot of opportunities with color and design and creativity, and creating these zones in the floor and stuff, so that you can know where the gathering space should be visually, and hopefully tables don't migrate into places where you want circulation to be happening, that kind of thing. And those sort of give you that indication on the floor. A few of the offices right now, we're thinking, carpet, that's pretty common, that principal offices and conference rooms. And then as he's here, the media center is often, carpeted. And then wood floors on the stage and the gym, and poured sports floor in the multi-purpose room, and then tile in the bathrooms, and maybe even in the kitchen, like quarry tile in the kitchen, and then maybe something a little nicer in the bathrooms. And then just in a few, in the mechanical zone and the custodial zone, just sealed concrete. So
What is poured sports floor? What is that?
it's got, it's an epoxy, I think, product.
I think so.
Right, and it's just,
Epoxy over concrete?
yes, and it's got a little bit, it's quite a bit thicker than typical epoxy, so it's got a lot of sponginess to it.
Okay.
And then it's overlaid with a very sturdy top coat that is a color typically. I think you can sometimes get like a wood look if you want, but
You're not talking
often.
about the rubber stuff, the recycled tire stuff? No,
No,
not
no,
right?
that,
Okay.
that's like in a, like weight rooms.
Yeah.
This is like, it just looks like, if it's blue, it looks blue. Like it'll almost
Okay.
look like these floors, like it's that color, it's like bright
Okay.
sometimes, and it's very solid. It's got like maybe slight dimpling to it, but like pretty much very flat and even. You can paint sports lines on it or what have you very easily. Similar to a wood floor in that aspect, but very, one color. It's got a lot of squishiness, in a multi-purpose you don't usually need the wood floor, so it's a little bit a little bit of savings and still very durable and long lasting. So that's that, and then just for walls and ceilings, walls, we're gonna plan on doing tile wainscoting, because that's, a very long-lasting, durable solution to the walls. Drywall gets scuffed up, and you're painting it all the time, we don't wanna create that situation. So we're looking at putting tile at least up to a certain height, and then, on certain walls, more so ones that are out of reach, but, depending, we put the vinyl graphics, so like that stair at the end of the hallway where I had red, maybe that would be a beautiful graphic with wild cats and paw prints and I don't know, whatever. We'll find what inspires the school and what is meaningful to the town, and do that. This was very naturey theme. You can see there's kind of a part of a leaf on this floor and ripples of water, and so this was leaves and sunlight and whatever. We have an in-house graphic designer who puts these all together and works with the town when that time comes, and they're really very cost effective and they're super impactful design wise. So we'll be planning to put those in certain key areas where they would make a lot of sense. And then ceiling wise, the bulk of the ceilings will be just ACT acoustic ceiling tiles like what's here. And that's, got great absorption for sound, but also, look clean white ceiling, and then, but you can pop them out and do maintenance above them, they're very flexible. And then in certain key areas, sort of like those learning commons and other zones, we'll look at using some felt baffles, which are also acoustically good, but they give you that sense of height above them a little bit, and they give you that pop of color too, because ACT does have colors, but they're pretty limited, so you kind of end up just with white, and then it gives you that chance to bring a little color into the ceiling plane, which when you're walking down the hallway and you see that up there, it's pretty exciting. So that's the interior materials. That's what we're planning.
Comments?
Yeah. And then exterior materials, you guys have seen the fold option. We're still looking at that, we're refining it. But at the moment, we're thinking that the bulk of the building would be some kind of brick, maybe with some, elements of brick patterning, hopefully, because that always makes the building very interesting, casts a lot of nice shadows and interest, never low enough that they become a climbing opportunity, because they could.
First thing I thought.
Yeah, yes. I whenever I show this one, especially where it's like a ladder, it's like, and not to the ground. And then in the metal panel, probably like a flat or standing seam metal system, which when you see the fold, when I talk about it, I think is probably the system that makes the most sense. And then maybe some phenolic accent panels in a color. I was looking at green just because it's trees and we're in the woods and whatever. But it can be anything. So this is that fold scheme we've been looking at with sort of color and material applied. So the idea that these folded elements, those are the metal. And so the reason for the standing or flat seam is that that element can come up here and it can also make this roof edge really nicely and have a continuity of these reading like something that's actually folding, which I think is kind of the whole point of this scheme. And then infill underneath each of these elements is, those would be where the brick happens, and maybe, because this is upper and this is lower and this is the middle, maybe the pattern of the brick could change or differentiate, maybe the color differentiates, so that's something we can be looking at. And then the underside of all of these metals is maybe where, or ideally, to me, where the accent opportunity is, and sort of these folded elements kind of reading and folding across and over, and that bringing in a moment of potentially color. It could also be like a wood look material, so it could be a natural material look of wood, but it's not wood, and it doesn't weather like wood, but it has that look. So that is the materials I have. We have some axons too that we've been looking at. You've seen this one more or less. This is an updated version, and you can sort of see how the materials are laying out from view. Also a bit of a sneak peek on the site, but
I think they saw this one at the last meeting, so maybe you saw it in what was distributed, but this is the first time we've presented it.
yeah. So there have been some updates where the canopy, we've kind of looked at how this parking area can be rearranged and allow much more play out front, and then so the canopy has been sort of readdressed to relate to that. And you can see these folds as they're coming around and how they create these opportunities for additional clerestory light to bring daylight in. When you're coming down this hallway, you'll see glass above you, in front of you, up high, which I think will be a really nice experience. And then we did do the back of the building too, because we wanted to think about how all these materials are transitioning around. So predominantly in the back, we're thinking mostly brick would be coming around, but that the gym itself could be yet another folded element so that that motif or idea is happening somewhere on the back so that it doesn't look like we forgot about the back or something, because it's still going to be potentially a major point of entry with this set of doors there. So we want to make sure it looks lovely as well. So that's kind of it, and you can see the the metal again rising up over and across, and that sort of happening, and then the rest being pretty simple and brick on the two educational wings.
It's worth mentioning that masonry brick is highly economical and very robust. Lasts a long time as long as it's maintained well.
Same with the metal.
Yeah.
Standing seam or flat seam, either way, it'll be there. It'll be good. And the phenolic we've used on a number of projects, whether it be color or a wood look, is warranted to last for a really, really long time. And even if it's red, it doesn't fade. So like they won't give you a color that will look bad in 3 or 4 years. They don't want to do that. So
Wouldn't the colors be similar to this school, where it's the sandstone with the maroon accents on the outside?
it could be. I mean, we were looking at green just because of nature as the theme, and because sometimes we don't necessarily get into school colors at the elementary level as much. I do think the Wildcat thing is fun and interesting. But
You
there was
wouldn't
this.
put like a green paw print when everything else is maroon. That's all I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
to have one cohesive school unit.
Yeah, it could be more maroon. I was like green, just to pick something.
Well, I mean, the idea, the concept here is this school with woods, and there is reason to think about colors beyond the maroon. So I think that's for, that's a conversation that we'll continue to explore. Right now, we're owning materials more than color.
Sure.
Because it comes down to what gets costed in the cost estimate.
Yeah,
I like
whatever
the idea
color we
I
pick.
like the idea of the wood, the wood.
Yeah,
style.
and then there are some beautiful wood looks
Yeah.
that they make, which would be very natural. And then, there could be color, maybe window frames could have pops of color, or, what have you. I mean, ultimately on the interior, we're gonna need more than just one accent color to define zones and create spaces. And if we were using maroon as like the school color, we'd tie all the other colors in with that, so they would look really nice together. And there probably might be green and blue and maroon.
I don't know anything
and-
about colors. I was just asking. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know. People always want school colors.
I don't believe that, I believe that it's tie-in to the school colors is one pathway forward and one thing we can continue to discuss. But I don't believe that its connection from a color point of view to this building needs to be a one-to-one connection.
Mhm. And I do think that the moments in the gym or other places where it's like sportsy is also a great moment to make that true connection to the color, and then maybe let the rest of the school be more playful and exuberant because they're little ones and they're not necessarily thinking about the basketball team in kindergarten. Maybe they are. Some of them are, probably, but maybe not all of them. So, you don't necessarily. And there's plenty of kids that never do sports, and they exist, and I know it because I was one.
They did that when you said sportsy.
Yeah, those sportsy kids. Not
Wear
me.
the colors, leave the colors on the sign, and then we can do vibrant on the.
Shut up, you architects.
Well, we have orange, blue, and green here as accent,
Sure.
public, commons, but also, very aware of keeping maroon themes as well.
Yeah, I think
A
it can
mix of all.
It can all be in
Carpet.
harmony, I think.
I like the carpet. Yeah.
We often like to do color on the exterior. Some towns are not into that. We're probably gonna push that a little bit, and then, we'll do it.
Especially for the littler kids,
Yeah. It makes it look like a school for little ones, I think, because a lot of times the building is all tan and neutral, and it could be anything. And then when it's got moments of color on the outside, it more tells you that it's a school just intuitively. So we like that, because we like, you know, buildings to tell you what they're doing and all that stuff. Because we're architects. So that's what's gonna get added into the sets for cost estimating purposes, and then we'll get a sense of where we're at for budget and make decisions on where we need to pull back or change or, you know, make edits.
So if the brick's the more economical skin on the building, what's the upcharge? Is it like double the square foot, triple the square foot to go to the metal seam or to the phenolic?
Let's get back to you with that, with the cost
I'm not
estimate
looking for,
information.
like,
It's,
a definite number, I'm just figuring in general.
I
I know
I-
you're keeping the square footage down
Of
on
the-
the
of that
others,
material.
so
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's because there's a decent upcharge for it.
I believe that, I want to say it's about 150%, you know, 1.5. But that's really rough.
And we do have to do it, you know, at the roof edge, kind of, that's how that
Yeah.
works. So it's really only adding it on those two sides as they fold down, and I don't know if you notice.
Yeah, there wasn't much of it as well.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, right.
we're even
You
gonna
wrap
find
it
ways to
around, yeah.
break it on the sides
Yeah.
and turn with brick, because I think, you know, it's a premium item, we don't wanna go crazy. And the phenolic is happening, you know, at these little inner corners,
Yeah,
so
there's very
again,
little of that.
yeah, we're trying really hard to, like, you know, be cost effective with the materials, but also make a very impactful design that, you know, will last a long time and look good. You know, it could all be brick, and that's fine, but, you know, it's a little less exciting.
Well, and it
wouldn't
won't,
be
it
the
won't
fault.
hold the concept.
No, it wouldn't hold the concept, but, you know, ultimately, we make a lot of all brick buildings, and that's nice, but this would be better if we can afford it. So I think we should see what the cost estimate tells us. And flat seam is, I think, one of the more effective metals.
Pretty
Cheap, like comparatively. There's other panelized metals that are more money. So this is the most cost-effective metal system. And the phenolic is, I think, in keeping with that pricing-ish, yeah. So, want to do the site?
Okay, so we've been talking about the site all along, and we've talked a lot about the parent drop-off and the bus drop-off, but also we have been talking about the wetlands and the way that the wetlands are pulling in on us and creating a smaller and smaller usable site footprint. We also know that we have to have the road around the back of the school for emergency access and for delivery access. And so we had previously been talking about that as additional parent drop-off location. In working with the district and providing a few options, we've continued to develop the site plan. And the way that we are proceeding right now shows the bus drop-off at the front and only that one loop at the front. And the parent drop-off will continue around to the west side of the building to the entrance into the cafeteria. So all of the parent drop-off will go around that way. This does a couple of things. One, it frees up a more space out front, in front of the building for play and active space and plaza and entry. It also creates a longer parent queue, so that more, you know, you can have more lineup before it starts to impact Stepping Stone Lane, Stepping Stone Drive, excuse me. So it's really primarily about that expanded play area as the site becomes, you know, tight. The other thing that maybe you notice here is that the wetland lines have changed. So we have flagged and surveyed the existing wetlands, and those are represented here. The good news is that they really have almost no impact on, nope, I'm gonna take back the almost. They have no impact on the building footprint. In almost all locations, they've moved slightly away from the building. There's one small location where it's slightly closer, and so we're we've got roadway within the 50-foot buffer in that area. But for the most part, for all areas, it got better. The exception to that is at the field, and this does not have a new field location. We'll need to do some pushing and pulling on the field. Right now, the field is shown within the new 50. I'm going to stand down at this point. The wetland over here on this side has grown based from what we had previously, based on what's actually there on site and flag. And so that's going to push the field that way to a certain degree. And we still have to come back to you with some pricing for what that field is. It also does increase the amount of road that's crossing that wetland. And we've got some ideas that we're working through on how to do that. But for the most part, the good news is we know what we've got, which is great. We're not using historic data, it's what's out there. Our conservation agent has walked the site and looked at our flags, had a couple of very minor comments, but didn't have any particular comments about where the flags were placed. And so we are now working off of real data based on what's actually on.
Did the line moving down by the field impact the septic reserve? Because that's you were showing that.
No, the septic reserve is here.
Okay.
I think that ultimately for the field to work, it may have to overlap the septic reserve, which means if you ever have to use it, you have to tear up the field, create the new septic system, and then you can put the field back over the septic field. But no, it doesn't. The new wetland line does not impact the septic.
So that's the reserve field. Is it still down on the lower left-hand side where the actual septic is going to be?
The actual septic currently is shown as this dash thing. We're working with our civil engineers. We think it's going to end up squeezing further to the east based on some of the test borings that they've done. And it can be, it doesn't have to be this like perfect rectangle. It can be made up of multiple pieces and multiple shapes. But yeah, generally it's here, but I think more specifically that.
I mean, that looks pretty tight to the building. You okay with the setbacks?
It needs to be,
It's 10 feet if it's.
No, it's not, it's 20.
I believe it's 20 feet.
Tanks
I
are
believe
10
it's 20
feet,
feet
field
from the
are 20.
building, and that's what's shown, and that's what we'll maintain.
There's no basement.
So then it's 10 feet for slab on grade.
Yeah, so it's 10 feet of its slab. But I mean, it's, again, I don't know what's drawn to scale. It just looks pretty tight.
I think we're holding 20 at the moment.
We are,
Okay,
yeah.
good. And you show parent drop-off, but where is it envisioned that parent pickup is going to happen?
Same place. Along here with a queue around this way.
Parents are gonna line up far ahead of that. Like, they're gonna go straight past that door, they're gonna go all the way to where your septic is.
Maybe at
They're
first,
gonna start lining
yeah,
up
that's their
there.
problem. But
I'm just saying.
maybe at first.
No, because the first one's gonna stop right at that door, and they're not gonna keep going until they get.
Keith is gonna be out, Keith is gonna be out with the big
first day.
signs.
First
Like,
day.
it says
Yeah, don't
stop.
worry, we got it. Yeah. The
Or,
second day, they're
or
pulling
Jenny,
all the
those
way
big
out.
signs out there that says stop.
Yeah.
Well, for example, here, when we designed it to have the pickup in the back, which was changed, which we're going back to, we did set up a system where cars would stop to allow buses to exit first. I think we set up a cone, and then it just became the normal part of practice for them to stop there. So
I got a really
There's
bright shirt.
definitely some education that has to happen, but I think once they get a routine established, they should do that. Then they will pull up, but then the kids will walk out, depending on the age group and so forth.
And is the road wide enough so if somebody has to get around them, they can?
Yes.
The Roselle drop-off is the best.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions on site? Yeah.
I can't remember, does the MSBA fund any of the field,
No.
or is it 100% on us?
Do you want to say this?
There's a site cap. So it depends how you look at it, but overall, the MSBA will fund a percentage of site work. So if you want to put the field within that allowance, you can. If you want to put the foundations, but generally speaking, they don't exclude fields, but they cap site work at a 8% or.
Yeah, and we'll have so much site work that we're gonna blow past that, so.
I don't think it's ever been on
and
any
your
project.
project does.
Every project does. They're always over.
Does the potential of using geothermal change for anything with site and the field if we were to use that area as well? I know we can put fields over it, but are there any additional incentives if that were there?
Can you say your question again?
So like, we have to, if we were to do geothermal
Yeah.
and that was the area we're putting the wells,
Yeah.
we have to develop that area. Is it still the same scenario? You're using this amount of money regardless, it doesn't matter, or are there better?
So if geothermal's going in, it doesn't like increase the site cap, if that's what you're asking, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last thing, feels like a while ago now, but about a month ago, we met with the chiefs and with the principals and with Mark and Gary, along with our engineers, our electrical and security engineers, and had a security meeting. We met on fire alarm and mass notification. Mass notification is a communication system for the entire school in emergency situations. We talked about access controls, door controls. We talked about CCTV security cameras, and we talked about intrusion alarm systems. These are the big categories that we based the meeting around. We did distribute meeting minutes to the committee. Does anybody have any questions on those minutes or anything? Okay. And then the last thing is on Thursday, we are planning a tour of Saugus Middle High School. There's a lot of things that you'll be able to see if you go on that tour, including a school with 2 cafeterias and a single kitchen, light wells, vinyl graphics, a lot of these materials that we're talking about. So I know some of you are planning to come. We hope that as many of you that can make it come. And we think it's going to be,
What time is that on
pretty
Thursday?
interesting.
11.
I believe that it's 11, is that right?
Yeah, meeting there at 11.
Well, if you're going to Saugus, that means leave here at 9:30.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
We're thinking 9
That's why I
o'clock.
didn't make it 9, because I would have meant leaving at 5.
Yeah.
But we can go to the Square One Mall, go see a mall, we'll go to lunch at Orange Julius.
Our Lou's right down the street.
It's right there, so that's always fun.
But you're not, right? Yes.
I got every strip mall thing you can dream of along that route, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we have pictures on our website too of that school, a lot of them. But yeah, we can take our own pictures, which are less good, and the photography ones are really great.
Yeah.
Can you
we
put
can
a
share,
link-
we can share the
can you put a
projects
link
link on
on-
our website that'll have a whole bunch of its photography.
Yeah, which is a lot better than any of us, better cameras and all that.
Listen, could you put a link on our website to your website where your pictures are? Do you know what I mean? So like the good pictures that your photographer took, can you link it onto our school page?
Probably.
I think we could. Just a link to their website.
Yeah, just to the picture that you guys professionally took.
Yeah, and I can share them out with the committee too.
No, I just mean the ones that they have already taken.
Yeah, ours, we're,
Is that,
it's like-
let me ask you a question, Scott. Is that for you, or is that for public?
For anybody that's looking for information on the school project, the website that we have for the school project, put it on that page and say, just buildings that you guys have done, and just list under, material or something like that.
Right.
That way if anybody's looking, be like, oh, this is the brick they used over here, this is what they might be thinking about. I mean, I don't know how many people are gonna look, but more information is better than less.
Right.
And it's just a link, it's not
Yeah.
7,000 pictures.
Good. James, want to click through the last couple ones?
Oh, sure.
Budget
So,
update.
touch base on the cash flow update. So to date, we have billed $795,580, which is on track for our feasibility study agreements for both firms. So no real, I don't know, everybody's gonna have any questions on the cash flow? Nope, figured. All right, schedule, same thing, kind of right where we've been last month, working towards schematic design submission in October. And then on the next slide, we have a couple of key dates. So today we had the Sustainability Systems Working Group before this, and we had the SBC that we're in currently. And then looking ahead, we have another Sustainability Systems Working Group on 8/26 before the school building committee as well.
And at that 8/26, sorry to interrupt, at that 8/26 SBC meeting, we'll be talking about the sustainability and systems. We're sort of in process with that group now, so we'll be bringing that back at the next SBC.
Great. I think that's it.
Fantastic. Any comments, questions before we adjourn? No? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed to adjourning? No. Thank you.